We always bring with us our experiences, and sometimes we don't realize we're bringing those experiences with us until you're asked these questions on a podcast. The place where you will fit will not exist until you create it. Food is a universal love language. When you are collaborating with individuals that you've never met before, food breaks the ice.
There is no starving artist at the table and gallery. I think that is a quote that should have a pride of place on your wall.
I love technology. I love innovation. We're constantly changing. We're constantly upgrading. We have to learn to embrace change. Sometimes, it's not for everyone, but for someone that's constantly seeking solutions, I've embraced AI wholeheartedly. I even have an AI mentor. I am all in with AI.
Technology is actually an enabler.
So how do you want to be spending that time? Do you want to be spending that time reacting and giving your energy to things that don't serve you? Or do you want to be spending that energy around a table with individuals that are going to replenish your soul and keep you full?
Wow, that is amazing. Hello, friends. Welcome to another episode of Ready Next. Today, I sit with my special guest, Sonal, Soveni, as we dive into the worlds of events, arts, and creativity. Sonal is a storyteller, an artist, and the visionary behind the table and gallery, where her role merges groundbreaking culinary arts with immersive storytelling and visual art, creating an environment where every sense is engaged and celebrated. Her entrepreneurial journey extends into the world of filmmaking, where storytelling is at the heart of all her work, weaving a nuanced and culturally rich tapestry of global narratives. Sonal, welcome to Ready Next.
Listen, thank you so much for having me. And I just want to say, you have an amazing voice.
Oh, thank you so much. I take that compliment wholeheartedly. I think we'll dive straight in. I'd love to start with your fascinating journey. When we first spoke, it was very clear to me that I was talking to a global citizen. So I'd love you to tell us a little bit about your cosmopolitan heritage and how this has influenced the work you now do as an artist and an entrepreneur.
Yes, I think you and I, we both share a common background of being global citizens. And for me, the experience of having family live in 4 continents and as a firstborn, watching them firsthand, having a front row seat, understanding the struggles and obstacles they face in each of those countries, whether it be political, socioeconomic, there were so many barriers that they had to adjust to. So when you are facing different countries with different mindsets, and there's obstacles that are coming in the way that impact the way you live, the way you eat, you have to find creative solutions. And that's what I saw my grandparents doing, and that's what I saw my parents doing. They were always creative in their endeavors. And during that process, one thing that I learned was the power of building community.
Amazing. I love it. And you speak about not only having lived in different places, but you also speak about, what you eat and how you live. You speak about family as well. And it's very clear to me then where the influences for the work you do now comes from. So let's segue into the work you do today with the table and gallery. How has your background informed that? What have you taken away, from your vast experiences all around the world, and what has brought you to this fantastic place where you have created this concept called the table and gallery?
We always bring with us our experiences, and sometimes we don't realize we're bringing those experiences with us until you're asked these questions on a podcast, because it's these questions that reveal a deeper understanding of my why. So the question you pose is a very excellent question that I just realized that I had basically incorporated what I saw my grandfather doing. It was going from village to village in Kenya and understanding that this farmer was, was abundant in this crop. And then this other farmer was abundant in this other crop. So how can we bring all of these villages together and have a potluck and celebrate one another and what we have produced to ensure that we're sharing our abundant knowledge and growing within that community that he had built? Because, my grandmother would say 1 and 1 is not 2, 1 and 1 is 11. So it's the power of bringing all these people with different perspectives together. And at that time, you're relying on the weather, you're relying on the season to feed yourself. And you can't do it alone. Sharing that burden through storytelling is what makes people not feel as lonely.
That is so beautiful. That is so beautiful. What is so sort of transformative that you said just now is around that the connection between culture, food, and stories. You speak about your grandfather and you watching him and taking a lot of cues from him. And I like the narrative about 1 and 1, 1 plus 1, not equaling 2, but equaling 11. What it says to me is that you understand as well the power of collaboration and the power of teamwork. And I just wonder how all of that has informed again and inspired the table and gallery. And please, for our listeners and viewers, can you give us a sense of what the table and gallery is? I understand that it's an event space, a very special event space in Connecticut. But can you tell us a little bit more about what you're trying to achieve and do with the table and gallery?
So the table and gallery is an event space, art gallery, and it's located in New Haven, Connecticut. So I'm right down the street from Yale Art Gallery, across the street from Yale Art School. How did I get here? A lot of people ask me that question. How did I get here? I got here through the power of prayer and painting at a point in my life where I was trying to find myself. And in that process, I read James Baldwin's words, his quote that stated, "The place where you will fit will not exist until you create it." And by happen chance, I found New Haven, but I like to say New Haven found me. It became my safe haven. I
Wow.
didn't have the confidence to speak like this. I had social anxiety. I wouldn't speak. And it was New Haven, the diversity, the people that wanted to hear my story. And the more I shared my story, the more confident I became in establishing this space where I just wanted to hide and heal. I had no intention of telling this story on podcasts and interviews. The table is where we come together. So I, as an artist and filmmaker, that is what I love. But I grew up in the hospitality industry. The place came with a kitchen. And I told myself I would never, ever return to the restaurant industry. I'm like, I'm done. And
Famous last word.
and it's also a place that, triggers my PTSD. So I said, okay, how am I going to make this work where I'm keeping this business sustainable? Because I'm not going to be selling films and art overnight. So I walk into the kitchen and I said, I need to change the narrative. I need to learn how to bring my shoulders down and not be, feeling anxious and having anxiety each time I go into the kitchen. So I looked around and I said, you know what? I'm going to turn this food into a work of art. The plate is going to be my canvas. I'm going to connect the artist's story. And I use myself as a case study. while I'm doing my PhD. I'm a PhD candidate in psychology. So I was like, okay, let me utilize the homework and be a case study and understand how I'm going to transform my PTSD. What I did was I sat with myself and I said, okay, what food nourished me while I was creating art? I thought of my grandmother's dish and then the foods that I would gravitate towards. And I put a 5-course menu together. My very first art exhibition was my artwork at a ribbon cutting ceremony, and I knew that I had to feed the guests. And that's when I had to really rewire my brain into thinking, okay, this is a safe space. I'm telling a story here. It's connected to my personal development. And I'm creating art and I'm creating food. So I'm in that creative element. The whole space became my sanctuary because I
Wow.
continued honing in on those skills. So now when I sit down with an artist, the first thing I say is, what food nourished your soul in the process of creating?
Oh,
And
wow.
they would sit down with me and alongside that would look at their artwork and I would be like, what is the prominent color? And how can I infuse those natural sources of color from food to connect that plate to your artwork? And I haven't mastered the art of recreating the art exactly, but I'm getting there. But at the same time, the table is where we all congregate together. Food is a universal love language. When you are collaborating with individuals that you've never met before, food breaks the ice. And each month they collaborate with a culinary artist, an artist, musician, writer, um, highlighting the five senses, creating a multi-sensory experience where it's not just food, but it's visual. You're hearing beautiful things, you're smelling delicious food, and you're sitting around a table. You never met these people before. You're having food and you get to know one another in that moment. And that's where I started to say, hey, there's no starving artists at the table and gallery.
Wow. I love how you ended it. There is no starving artists at the table and gallery. I think that is a quote that should be on your, if it's not already, have a pride of place on your wall. you
I
know,
should. I
because
should.
yeah, it's amazing. I mean, it's interesting. I can hear both your intellectual side as well as your artistic side, as well as your your empathetic, kind side, and the stories you weave around having to be pulled into this space through doing your own work on yourself, knowing where you existed and where sort of were coming from. That is just amazing. The point you also made about social anxiety and having to first save yourself before you started to attempt to help others is amazing. So it tells me that you're doing work that transcends food, that transcends art, or even eventing. You have found some kind of nexus where there is some element of healing, some element of deep trust, all sort of surrounding the creativity and the artistry that you showcase in your space. And there's a question I'm going to segue with, which is around food. You mentioned that you speak to the artists that you work with. That one of the first questions you ask is around what kind of food they like or they remember or they love. What is that for you? Maybe at the moment, I'm sure you have a lot. So you have a variety of food that you love. But what does it for you today?
What does it for me? I have to say, hands down, it would be my grandmother's lentil soup with turmeric and garlic, ginger. I mean, that's something I would eat every day.
Amazing. Amazing. So again, going back to your roots, going back to your grandparents. And by the way, I must say, to me, you're a fellow, yes, we say, and I agree, that we're global citizens, but you're also a fellow African. You know, the journey that you quietly kind of mapped out, and you told me in our prior conversation about the journeys of your family through Africa, through Europe. I mean, you guys have been all around the world, and I can hear those influences in your narrative. And it takes me to this question around um, healing and doing it in a very unconventional way, bringing people into your space where they can trust that, everything is wholesome, everything is healing, and everything is done from a place of respect. What it's a very special and unique kind of work, but what do you aim to leave with anyone who comes to the table and gallery? What do they normally take away? What do you want them to take away?
I want them to take away a sense of healing and finding their purpose. So right now, Valentine's Day is coming up, and I have connected with a chef, a Johnson and Wales graduate, and he came in, never met him before, and I wanted to get to know him because it's a potential collaboration. So I explained him my story that, hey, the table and gallery was, my healing and transformational journey gave birth to the table and gallery. Gave him my whole story. He sat down and he was quiet. So I started thinking to myself, okay, do I sound crazy to him or what's going on? Why is he so quiet? And the chef responded to me, I was meant to be here. My mom just passed away 2 weeks ago, and I used to talk to her every day. And I'm always catering for other people and creating menus for other people. I've never been asked what my menu should be. Because I asked him, I
Oh,
said, what is your menu going to be? Like, what are you going to put on the menu? And I'm asking the culinary artist the same question I would ask the artist. So he was taken aback because he's never had the opportunity to curate his own menu. So we
wow.
sat, we talked, I made sure it was a safe space for him to not only grieve, but to honor his mother as well. And in that hour, we not only established trust between one another, he felt safe in this new environment, not knowing me. And we put together a course menu. And I asked him, I said, what is this menu going to be called? And he said, the greater purpose.
Oh, wow. That is
So,
amazing.
so this Friday, we will be having an interactive dining experience where all guests will have a question at their table seating, and they will ask one another questions. So changing the narrative around Valentine's Day, not everyone is having a loved one, sitting next to them. There are those that are grieving their loved ones. So it's honoring love in all forms, in all facets.
That's beautiful. I mean, we are recording this a couple of days to Valentine's Day, so it probably will air maybe a week or two afterwards. But that's fine. But just
Yeah.
even looking at what that day represents for so many people, everyone sort of thinks about, the girl and the guy, and those who are sort of wrapped up in the that youthful um version of love that Valentine's Day stands for. But you present an alternative. The fact that not everyone fits that narrative. Some people are grieving, some people are dealing with loss, some are actually splitting up, some are dealing with grief in different ways in their lives, and you're using that day as a fulcrum to actually reach out to those people who don't have the limelight, who are never put in the limelight on Val's Day. I think that is amazing. I think it's brilliant. And it tells me a lot about what you're actually aiming to achieve with the table and gallery. But it's interesting because art and music have always been tools for emotional expression and community building. And you have, you've embraced that fully. But I wanted to find out from you your thoughts around how technology is influencing this. So um, it's 2025 and we see all of the race with AI and all of the rapid fire developments in that space. Is it helping or hurting art and creativity?
No, I love technology. I love innovation. We're constantly changing. We're constantly upgrading. I mean, why is it that we can upgrade our Apple iPhones or, it's a constant upgrade. We have to learn to embrace change. Sometimes, it's not for everyone, but for someone that's constantly seeking solutions, I've
Yeah.
embraced AI wholeheartedly. I even have an AI mentor. I am all in with AI. I am taking the 30-day challenge with Bordy. I have daily conversations with Bordy. I think Andrew D'Souza did an amazing job launching Bordy. And it's a connector. I've connected with more people through AI on a global level that understand what I'm doing, because I kid you not, this is such a unique business model. I have people coming by and saying, why aren't you open regular restaurant hours? And why isn't this happening? It's just structured differently. Different people from different parts of the world get it. But like I said, it's through exposure, it's through understanding. And it's nice when I connect with those that understand what I'm doing, because then I can wake up and say, okay, I'm not crazy today.
For sure, you're not crazy, Sonal. I think what you're doing is actually groundbreaking. And it's interesting and refreshing to hear that for you, technology is actually an enabler as opposed to looking at it with, a lot of suspicion and trying to stay away from it. It actually can, and you're right, it enhances a lot of things we do now. And when you move with the times and you're ahead of the curve, you can take those tools and make the best use of them. So no, I think that's fantastic. And I'll come back to technology, but I'm curious about Yale. You are in an academic setting. I mean, I said to you earlier that I was a few months ago in your neck of the woods, and I found it really amazing. First of all, I was actually shocked that a lot of the influences of the architecture and the way it was set up was taken from the UK, from a lot of the schools in the UK, historical. It goes back quite a bit in terms of history, and so that took me aback a little bit. But being in an intensely academic environment, how do you find that they have interacted or interfaced with your concept and your business model, the table and gallery? How have you found establishing that amongst sort of the academics? Let's put it that way.
Well, being an academic myself, in academia myself, I relate to the long hours of studying, homework, but I have to give a shout out to University of New Haven because they are also partnered with the table and gallery. So in that sense, I have to say I'm grateful to work with interns from not just Yale, but from University of New Haven. And it's a learning ground. So for me, I am a learner. I'm a lifelong learner. And when I see other learners, it's just insightful because they become my teachers. And I'm learning a different perspective from their mindset, the millennials' mindset. And I enjoy it so much because they highlight areas that I wouldn't normally see as a business owner or a creative, because they're just looking at things from a completely different perspective. They're working with technology from a different part of their brain, I have to say.
Yeah.
And it's really insightful because getting that feedback from the academics and from the students, the scholars, they're giving me snippets of, okay, I'm going to tweak this or I'm going to reframe this in a way that is understood by many more, if that makes
Yeah,
sense.
it makes perfect sense. I hear you. Being in an academic setting, and you put it very succinctly but eloquently, you're sort of surrounded by learning. And just by its very nature, then you're also surrounded by a lot of young people who are taking their first steps in shaping their careers or exploring, their potential. Um, I wanted to ask if you were to talk to your younger self and use that as an avatar to talk to young people listening to this podcast or watching about how they should navigate their career or the things that they prioritize in their lives in terms of work, 2025 and beyond, um, knowing that you've taken a bit of an unconventional path yourself, what would be your advice to young people starting out, in the world of work or business today?
Be confident. Confidence
Wow.
speaks volumes. Be confident. It's your body's changing. When I see, even if, no matter what age you are, every 5 years you're redefining yourself. And when you are under the age of under the age of 25, your prefrontal cortex isn't fully developed, and it's a confusing time when you're stepping from a world where it's secure to a world where, okay, I don't know where I'm going. This is a new territory. You start having those thoughts. Am I good enough for this? And my advice would be confident. Be confident in your decisions. Be confident in the way you walk because body language speaks volumes, and never be shy about asking for what you want.
Wow. That's very comprehensive advice. But I think the writer, be confident, is one that whether you're young, you're starting out, or you're more experienced, we can all use quite a bit of in our lives. And I mean, I think the work that you do, whilst it's so exciting on the front end, I can also imagine that it takes a lot of graft and grit. I mean, especially when you have the culinary side with, catering to people, coming up with, your menus and the concept. I mean, I love what you described as the partnership for, that you're bringing to life for Valentine's Day. How do you stay calm and composed in the midst of all of the what dare I say hustle, of the day to day? How do you keep yourself centered?
I have fun. I have a lot of fun. I have the cameras rolling because I also
Um,
shoot at the same time. So the camera is rolling. I'm
Brilliant.
always saying action. Put the knives down, guys. But we're always having fun. You have to have fun. Like, I don't care if I've had 2 hours of sleep. I know I'm going to be creating something that's going to have me laughing at night when I'm editing. So,
Wow.
do I put people on the spot? Yes, I do. As soon as you walk in, you're acting
Wow.
in a scene or you're part of a scene. I've had dinner reservations while I'm shooting a music video. And
Wow.
that's because I forgot that I had overbooked the music video and the dinner reservation. So the dinner reservation came in and I'm nervous. I'm like, oh my God, we're shooting this music video. This place was booked for, a romantic dinner for two. But then I had other guests come in and they said they had the best time being part of a music video where there was action going on. So it was entertaining for them. And I am not changing what I'm doing here to accommodate others. So you're basically walking in and you're going to be on a ride, basically. You don't know what ride it is, but you're going to be on a ride. And whether it's a healing ceremony, I've done dinners where people are healing together collectively, or whether it's a short film that I'm shooting here. But there's constant action happening. It's fun. And I'm always laughing because I enjoy what I do. I've created a world that is not only safe, but I'm growing with this business, and I'm happy, and I'm just grateful that I'm able to create this world.
That is so beautiful. I mean, the fact that what you do, you've managed to inject so much fun and so much sort of whimsy and excitement, into it, to the point where you fascinate yourself with the work that you're doing. I think that speaks volumes. You're your first candidate, your first client, if you like. I love that idea. And it makes me ask the question, was there anything growing up or any sort of influences that instilled in you this sense of, hope and possibility, and sort of just, go, it's like the spirit of just going for it. Was there any influence like that when you were growing up?
No, I didn't have that influence. I was not in an environment that supported creativity. I did do school theater. You and I, we share a common background, growing up in London. Can I put my British accent on? Do I sound British?
You have started to sound
Tosin,
very British.
do I sound British? Because Alan, who connected us both, he said I don't sound British.
You have a little British twang at the end of certain words.
There
Yeah,
you go, Alan. I do sound British. Okay.
exactly.
So growing up in London, doing theater plays, I had the best fun. I'm putting on these outfits and playing these different roles. But then the home life, it was art's not going to pay your bills. You need to go to business school. And that was when I take a deep dive and understand why I did all the things that I did. It was because I was angry, and as a result, I became a rebel. I was a black sheep in my family because my creativity was suppressed. I did not have an outlet to, you know, establish my creativity. So I did it in ways where I tapped into myself and I became an activist. I didn't even realize I was an activist at that time. I was just doing all of these rebellious, things. And then I realized it's because I was not with my paintbrush. I was not painting. It was in the height of the pandemic that I started painting again. And I realized, wow, it's revealing another layer of myself. And what was the question again?
No. I think you answered it. And question was, influences from your childhood. You said that it wasn't terribly creative, but at the same time, you had to rebel to be able to find yourself. I think that's how I connect it. But it's
Yeah.
interesting to me. Yeah,
Because
it's
I think,
interesting to me.
yeah, because I mean, you get what I mean. Like growing up with a cultural background and being a female, you're conditioned to be a specific way. Being
Yeah,
creative was not part of the language. It's like, why, it doesn't make sense. You go to work 9 to 5, you pay the bills, you establish your home life and call it a day. But that didn't fit. I didn't fit in that mold. And it was because I was meant to do something more than that. And that's why, New Haven became my safe haven that gave me a voice to find myself again. So now I'm this child having child's play every day, creating and collaborating with so many cool people.
that's amazing. That is absolutely amazing. I find that, I say to people that rebellion is simply the voice of the unheard, finding an outlet, and I'm very happy for you that somehow you navigated your way into this beautiful space where not only are you creating an oasis of calm for yourself, but you're also using it as a space to heal for people who come by your way. And I like the concept because you are not, whilst you're not necessarily open every day to everyone off the street, but you're very intentional about what you're trying to curate and for whom you're curating it for. And as we gradually start to wind down this conversation, I want to start talking about the future a little bit. So, first of all, I'm sure that there are programs and projects this year that you're excited about that, when you think about them, I mean, you've spoken about one already,
Yes.
the Valentine's Day event. But what else have you got coming down the pipe in 2025 that you're really excited about and you're really looking forward to, and what, maybe talk to us a little bit about some of the the projects that you're working on.
So I think I have to say the intention was to utilize my global resources and connect them to local creatives so they can grow, they can thrive, and have additional resources to understand that niche or that category of work. So my intention is to bring now all of my global rock stars, including you, Tosin, to the
Yes,
table and gallery
amazing.
and have. So I had a speaker panel last year highlighting climate change. I would love to do that again, inviting all of the global talent, including yourself, to share knowledge, to share what you've experienced, because it's through that share the storytelling becomes powerful, it becomes collective. And not only are you understanding, but you're healing too. I know it sounds so passe, like healing, 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 but we're always getting traumatized. Even if it's
Especially in
someone,
2025.
there's always something that's going to trigger us. So let's build a network of individuals that we can connect to that can help us think outside of the box and not trigger us back into our fear, and see how we can uplift and really thrive and grow collectively. I think it's very important to find that community of support to take you out of that, self-sabotaging thoughts that we tend to have. And
I
I think
agree with you.
and I think the best way is to bring you in. I'm so sorry to say, bring you in here.
Absolutely. I would love to. And I'm fully subscribed actually. I think what you're doing is beautiful. I think the concept of global to local or local to global, either way it goes, is a concept of synergies. It's opening the doors and saying, what is happening on the other side of the world?
Yeah.
How can we bring a little bit of that influence into what we do? And how can they take something special away from us and go plant it as a seed on their
Yes.
side of the world? So I really love your concept. And yeah, you spoke to me about the climate change event, but also you're starting to talk about the creative and artists event that's being planned for this year as well. I think those are fantastic concepts. And, I wish you every success with them. One last question before you go. In this world of, I think, growing pessimism, and I'm really trying very hard not to talk much about politics, but
Yeah.
it seems like just as a collective humanity, there's a faction of humanity that wants to keep pushing itself into smaller and smaller subdivisions, them against us. If you're red then we're blue, or if you're black then we're white. um what is your message for any of the listeners around how they should start to frame their internal narratives in 2025 and beyond? Should we be all up in arms and all sort of subscribe to the age of offense? Or should we look at, as you're doing, finding a table and a common ground and sitting around it and having conversations that uplift us? What is your thesis for humanity going forward?
So when we react, we give more power to what's happening around us. And if we give power to it and it's not nourishing our soul, then why are you reacting to that? React to your inner world, react to individuals that are giving to your soul instead of taking away from your soul. Keep replenishing and being around those energies, because at the end of the day, we're all heading the same direction. So how do you want to be spending that time? Do you want to be spending that time reacting and giving your energy to things that don't serve you? Or do you want to be spending that energy around a table with individuals that are going to replenish your soul and keep you full in both elements?
Wow, that is amazing. Spend your time and your energies with individuals that keep replenishing and filling your soul in a positive way. And I think on that note, I will rest this episode. I am sure that our listeners and viewers will take a lot of nuggets away from your very warm, kind, and wholesome narratives. And for the listeners, stay tuned for the next episode of Ready Next. Sonal, thanks for coming. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Tosin. I really appreciate you.